So what is a tag? I mean, obviously it's a term we've probably all heard before, but how it's used in the PLC context might seem a little weird. And the bottom line is, if you've used any other programming language, a tag is just a variable. I think it gets its name from the idea that I would put a little sticker around a wire, and so it would have a label associated with what's the signal that's in that wire. That's my best guess. But essentially, you are giving a name or a label to a piece of data you want to use in your ladder logic. Like I said, in C or some other language, we'd create a variable called A. We would give it a data type, in this case an integer, and we might also immediately assign a value to it. So when I create a variable in ladder logic, I have to give it a name, and then I have to tell the logic what is its data type. The two most common that we're going to use are a bool, which is boolean, which is just true or false, on or off, or a dint. I think that's a double integer, so maybe it's a 32 or 64-bit. I don't know. Maybe it's only 16. But a certain number of decimals in an integer, where each digit could potentially be a bool, but that's a separate thing. So a tag is just a variable. Let me show you how this works with an example code. So say I have this, and we're going to talk about this in a different video. I have a problem here with duplicate destructive bits. But if I wanted to call this something else so that it was easier to remember, and I'm also going to use this as a way to start building buffering into my code, I could just come here and call this A. Now you'll notice that my rung went red. This is now broken because A is not defined. But then if I click, and if I mouse over it, it says undefined tag. But if I right click on it, it says new A. So one, this is going to be really helpful, is if I'm trying to read A later on, and it lets me, and the wire doesn't turn red, and my rung doesn't turn red, then I've actually used a valid variable name. And so if I've used an invalid variable name, I'm using a variable that hasn't been defined, it'll break the rung. So in this particular case, I do want to create a new A. And because of the context, and it's sitting over top of an OTE, it recognizes that I probably want that to be a bool. And so I just click create. And as soon as I do that, I now, my rung goes back to being blue. And for example, I could come here and I could just say, okay, I'm going to read A. And maybe I created something weird here. That's not important right now. But now this variable can be used anywhere else in my code. And if I, for example, tried to use an invalid, so what if I dropped this guy in here and I said B, but B hasn't been defined, and then I put this here, and I made sure that this was valid. So what if I wanted to write that to local to out data 1? You see that my rung stays red, and if I mouse over this, it says undefined tag A, or undefined tag B. Whereas if I switch to something that is defined, it can read it, and I can now use A in multiple places if I need to. So for now, it's going to read one input and write two outputs. Maybe that's good or bad. But again, a tag is just a variable. You've got to, when the first time you type it in, it'll turn the rung red. You right click on it. So if we were going to define, we'll just show this one more time. Maybe we really do want to define B. So I see that my rung is red. I right click on it. I say new B, and then I give it, it's probably going to default to the correct data type, and I click create. Now ironically it says that's okay, which you'd think would be bad because B is never actually defined anywhere else. Apparently that's not one of the rules. All that to say, a tag is just a variable. Thanks.